Hi, everyone. Welcome to my sprint three of my second project on building my business of ever-evolving skills. This is where I demo what has been done, what I've been doing, what I've learned in the past couple of weeks, and what my next steps are. So let's look at the next slide for the agenda. This is pretty much, and you'll see some new photos here. Actually, a front page slide was a photo I've been taking in the mornings during my morning walks. And actually, this past sprint, I was celebrating a big milestone birthday. So this is the actual birthday cake from one of my friends. She had got it and then decorated it, very much describing what I've been doing with my family, traveling a lot in the past few years. So in this agenda, I'll also go through the current sprint, demo the progress I've made, and talk about my next steps. So in this project, the original project schedule is a 2-week sprint. I'm currently in the third one. I have some big news. And this is my 2-week schedule. Typically, I'd be creating and developing. And then today is October 1st. That is the fourth quarter. And this is where I demo my final deliverables of kind of the last couple of weeks. And then I'll release them tomorrow. So with my big birthday, I will say these last couple weeks, I haven't been able to get to what I had originally planned. So if you look at the last two columns, it was about personalizing my business website a bit more. I'd already redone it to make sure it was clear on what I was selling. And then I had got feedback from the mentor from SCORE that I received that it was still not really personalized. And my intent was to go back in it and do that. The other thing I wanted to work on was what I call a mini course content. I created the outline of the lessons and the modules. However, I did not get to completing the content. So instead, I'll share what I have been doing and what I'm deciding to do going forward. So what I have in the first column, the completed column, is a bit of self-reflection. I'll share what I've learned, probably because it's around my birthday, and then also about a self-management tool that I had recently discovered. So just to share a little bit more, it was my 40th birthday last week. So we took a family trip, actually a friend's trip to the beach. So we drove to Galveston, Texas, and these are just some family photos. We took a ferry ride to get across. It's kind of a neat experience. You actually get to drive your car onto their ferry, and it is free, and they ship you across to get to the other peninsula from Galveston Island. So we so happened to drive after school, after work, into the ferry when it was around sunset. So we got a beautiful photo of it. Typically there is a bit of a long wait. We rented a pretty large beach house right on beachfront, and had, I think, 4 or 5 families all together celebrating. So with their kids, I think there was almost like 20, 22, 24 people. So I'm really thankful and blessed to have my friends with me. My parents were actually out of the country, so they did not get to celebrate with them. But it was a really good experience. The kids had a lot of fun. What was interesting about the beach, it was that, I guess, from the recent Hurricane Francis that hit Louisiana coast, had brought a lot of jellyfish to the Galveston coast. So here's a picture, in the third picture, of jellyfishes. They were just everywhere. I've never seen it like that. I usually see seaweed, but literally they were a lot prettier than seaweed. They were just everywhere, just clear blobs in the sand. And even in the water, there was jellyfish floating around. So we didn't really play in the water too much, but just wanted to share that. And this last photo is just all of us that came together. Just a really amazing time. So I got to take a break and spend time with friends, and I'm really grateful for that. So that's really how I celebrate my 40th birthday in the last couple of weeks. Also, probably around the time as maybe some of us do is start to reflect a bit. Um, so I've said this problem in the past, an unexpected outcome of this journey for myself is a lot more self-discovery that I thought I'd already learned about myself, but I am continuing to learn. So I put this quote out here: the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely, by Carl Jung. And I think that is the state I'm probably at right now. I've mentioned this, that pretty much I've stripped away everything that is external validation to me, which is a lot about my career, what I've accomplished so far, and the achievements, and really throwing myself somewhere else. And as I'm going through this journey of self reflection, I realized that perhaps I was trying to still look for external validation instead of really trying to accept myself. And I think to do well in this next chapter of my life, or to do, or be successful, or how I define success, it's really about finding myself and what I like to do and what I want to do. It's funny, a lot of people, or even my husband, family, my sister will ask, well, what do you want? And surprisingly, in simple scenarios, yes, I want to have pizza, or I want to have this food versus this food. But in general, a lot of times I don't really have a good answer. I am a lot of the times looking for some sort of validation that I'm on the right path. This is also, and I realized this even when I was practicing yoga, that, I wanted to be perfect. I wanted to mimic either what the instructor was doing, or I wanted a mirror. And without that mirror, without that validation or that comparison, I was very uncomfortable with that. So I'll share kind of three um, podcasts or things I've been learning and delving into. So the first thing is called the Minimalist Podcast. So one of my friends recommended it, and I just started listening. And they're really about understanding what minimalism is and what is enough. So I think I discovered, when I think a couple of years ago when I was going through therapy, I remember the therapist asking me, what is enough to me? And or she asked me to explore, why do you keep saying, you're not doing enough? And fast forward a few months after that, I realized, oh, I was really saying I am enough. I am not enough. So therefore I keep working harder at work. I keep doing more projects, and it kind of gets into this hamster wheel. And so I found this minimalist podcast, and they're on their 400 something episodes, a lot of different topics, from emotional clutter to mental clutter to physical clutter to how do you, simplify. And I think the central theme of the episodes I've listened to, really it's about what are you looking for inside yourself, and what really completes you. And a lot of times, especially for myself, when I've been running, go, 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 really thinking that I'm achieving the American dream, or the template of American dream, that I'm checking all these things off, eventually I think I got to a state where maybe there was very few boxes to check off anymore. And there's this sense of emptiness that came with it. So, I have the home, I have the cars, I have a family, I even got a dog. Oh, it was, we're in this picture perfect, I think, family, what, the American dream, or the template of it, means. And what I discovered in the last few years is that things started to not be maybe as exciting, or there's this sense of emptiness, probably because I had been living with the notion, instead of asking myself what I want or what I love to do, checking off things what I think I'm supposed to do to define success. And that mindset of shifting over now, after almost 40 years, from school, now, crossing my 40s, that I got to a point where things just, maybe they were exciting before I accomplished it. Once you achieve it, kind of moves on. So when really kind of understanding how to define enough, now I have a whole house full of things I really want to declutter. So I really recommend it. They have a lot of different topics. Just start with one. I was listening to Science of Happiness, The Unhappy Billionaire. So again, a lot of it, the centralized theme is, at least to me, how do you really find fulfillment for yourself, and what does that mean? The second book that I've been listening to, so I've been taking a lot of morning walks. So that's why I said the opening photo is actually, I've been taking pictures. I don't even know why. Just as I'm walking, I realize how, beautiful really sometimes the sunrise and the sun just coming up is. So as I'm doing these walks, I'm also listening to these podcasts or audiobooks. So the highly sensitive person, if you have Audible, it is free. Same thing with Minnow's podcast. If you already have an Audible subscription, they were free on there. If you have Amazon Music, they were also free on there. And I think Minnow's podcast has a YouTube channel that you can watch, clips and bits of the episodes as well. But the highly sensitive person, I might have mentioned before that I discovered probably 3 years ago that I am highly sensitive. It just means that my central nervous system is a bit more heightened than most people. So therefore that scenarios or sounds and loud noises, environmental, it just is louder than what most people normal range is, just because of that sensitivity. It turns out it seems like I passed it on to my sons, although kind of split. One is a bit more emotionally sensitive and the other is more environmentally sensitive. So it's an interesting combo, but I've been meaning to look into this book and I didn't have a chance before. The term highly sensitive person was coined by Elaine Aron, and she's the one that authored this book. So I wanted to understand myself better and really find a bit more self-acceptance and understanding how that trait, it's a personality trait, affects how I interpret the world as a highly sensitive person now as an adult, but also as a child. So I think that has been kind of refreshing just for me to understand that part of me and really try to accept it. I think that that trait has given me a lot of, and I always kind of maybe not fully accept it in a way that I almost blame it, to say, okay, if I didn't have this trait, I wouldn't be so mentally kind of drained from it, right? Because what it does is that everything is heightened. So, and there's no way to filter it out. So when the TV noise is too loud, when things are too loud, there's no way to filter it out. So therefore, it's going to be processed. Now, coming with it is the gift of deep processing. So it is easier probably for me in an academic setting, in a structured format, for me to understand information relatively quickly, just because of our ability to process information. So, or the information that comes in and be able to kind of sift through that and make sense of it. Most of the decisions I make are pretty usually thought out or played out already. That's also part of that characteristic. So it's taught me a lot of, I would say, success, right? So academically, I used to compete in math competitions, won those, won several, you win and lose, at least you get placed, computer science competition, leading to getting scholarships for college, and leading to my career as well. I think it really helped in the sense that I was able to be really thoughtful and I don't like surprises. Most highly sensitive do not like surprises because of that heightened sensitivity. And that really taught me how I managed it, was really be quite organized and really thoughtful in planning my next steps. So in a corporate setting, it helped me to succeed in that way, right? So they'll typically will say I'm very organized and that I will have a plan on how to get things done. And that has probably contributed to my success in the corporate world. So if you discover, actually linked a test to here that Dr. Aaron designed. If you take it, it can tell you now. Sensitivity is a spectrum, so maybe very, very highly sensitive, or everybody will have some sensitivity. But she had designed a test to help you figure out if you have this trait. Now, the last one I went through is that one of the nights that I could not sleep last week, because I've been having a lot of anxiety, is this what is called internal family system and self-leadership, really founded by Dr. Richard Short. So I linked the IFS Institute where you can learn more, but I'll actually explain it. And I think it's a great system in helping helping people understand, digest kind of their internal self. So I'm going to go to the next slide. So the concept is this. So I quoted it here, also linked it. It is from the IFS Institute. This is straight from their site. IFS is a transformative tool that conceives every human being as a system of protective and wounded inner parts led by a core self. So I put this image here to say that if this is all of you, if you've ever watched Inside Out, in fact, I just watched the second part last week with my family. You can see a lot of times we have many different parts to us, many different voices, and sometimes those voices get blended with us. And the theory behind integrated family system is that there's a core true self beyond those voices, right? Unblended from them. And what it is, it gives us what it gives is a framework for accessing ourself, and then ultimately leading a life through what they call self leadership. So really leading from who you truly are. So what I like about this is that, first of all, this isn't a new concept, right? So as I was studying yoga, becoming a yoga instructor, we did a lot of meditation. So for probably 4 months daily, we're supposed to do at least 20 minutes of meditation. And on some of the days, if we're in class, maybe, and they wouldn't tell us how long we started, anywhere between maybe 15 to an hour. And the longest we done was probably several hours of just sitting there meditating, and we could not fall asleep. And what they say as they guide you, as we were learning about this meditation, this practice, is they'll say, we'll try to say something like this. So simply close your eyes, and as thoughts arrive, simply observe it and just let it pass. Some sort of phrase like that. Now, I always thought that it was a bit confusing for me. I didn't quite understand it. Now, I'm able to say it and repeat those words, but personally, even after meditating for 4 months daily, I was very confused the fact between how do I observe a thought? Like, is it me observing or am I observing myself? And I couldn't wrap myself around that concept. Now, sitting there for 20 minutes was okay. I'd be daydreaming or thinking about things, but I could never really just watch as the yoga instruction would say or the meditation would say. So, what I like about this when I first heard it, again, just last week, and I was just binge watching channels, that it provides a framework of how to think about that. How do you observe kind of more in a step-by-step way? So again, this is just, it's not, I don't think the concept of observing yourself is the original concept of this IFS system, but more so that they provide a step-by-step framework how to do that a little bit deeper for those of us that need it. So what they say is that a lot of times, just like the previous quote, we ourselves, out of protection or pain, commonly in childhood, will build up these really defense mechanisms, or these voices are parts of us to really protect us. And they categorize it into three, you'll see on the right-hand side, three roles. So the first two roles, I'll start with that, are the managers and firefighters. And these to me are, because I come from audit, is the first line, and you can think of these first line of defense and second line of defense. If your manager fails, your first line fails, the second line will kick in. So it says here, and this is not from IFS, it is actually from a different therapy that their site is here, but managers are the proactive parts that try to keep us safe by controlling other parts, people, or situations. So for me, if I have high anxiety, that probably that part of managing that, or being very prepared all the time, not liking any too many deviation, right, is like the plan party. So for example, is my manager trying to protect, right? It's here to guard and protect and make sure nothing goes awry so that I don't feel, hiding the pain or anything underneath. So it can take the form of planning, criticizing, pessimism, judging, or it says here, numbing. Now, if that part, fails, or kind of that first line is down, And our second line comes on called the firefighters. This is the highly reactive. So managers are proactive parts. They're trying to prevent it, right? Firefighters are the reactive emergency responders that swoop in when the system is at risk of overwhelm. And this is when they usually describe kind of the habits that probably are a bit more self harming. So things like substance abuse, binge eating, alcoholism, disassociation, suicidal thoughts, or even rage. Basically, what's happening, it's protecting all these first and second line defense is protecting that bottom, what they call the exiles, which is the wounded, the parts of us that were hurt at some part in our lives, usually in childhood. So they're the parts that hold trauma, pain, fear, and shame. And they're shut away. That's why they call them exile, to keep them safe, but also stop from overwhelming the system. So, what had happened, at least why I think this system is helpful, is because when I was watching these videos, and I'll link them as I create the newsletter tomorrow, is that it tells you a way of what it means to unblend. So a lot of times these voices parts take over us, right? If you watch Inside Out, that one part is taking over the control panel and controlling your actions to do it. In this video I watched, I really liked how the doctor explained. She was like, well, when you're blended, they're like up here, they're blocking. You can't see anything through them, right? You can't even kind of control. They're in control. So if you're able to recognize it, she says you take a step back and say, okay, anxiety, Angela, why are you, and you have a conversation and really understand where is it coming from, and really giving compassion to that part of you. So, and that also works to your firefighters, and you might have multiple voices stacked on top of each other. If you go and read the site, they talk about this example where there was a hopeless side, a hopeless part, but that hopeless part was also getting another part emerged to angry for being hopeless. And these voices really block us from understanding and feeling ourself. Or better yet, it's protecting the exile from taking over and that really emotional, painful memory. So the exiles, once you kind of get through those voices, if you can, what's left underneath sometimes when you're trying to access is this exile. And that usually is a younger self. So if you were hurt through trauma or hurt in some way, for most part, a lot of us probably do. For me, I have a lot of abandonment issues just because of my highly sensitivity and the kind of the emotion, the lack of emotional capability my parents really had. The tools that they have to help me through that time created a lot of pain. So when I was sad, when I was young, I was quite sad and unhappy with myself. And that behavior, that sadness turned into, or made me feel a lot of why I kept going and why I'm not enough. So, or why I feel that I'm not enough. So what they say to do, and I'm going to try to practice this, is to, if you can picture, access that exile part of yourself. And that's usually the inner child, what they call, go back to that painful memory or that pain, and really comforting her or myself, that part, and say, we're okay now. I understand that this is what happened to you or to us, and we are okay now. We are loved. We are enough. I am safe. I am secure. So really giving that, and that should help kind of process that. Now, this is a system. Again, I'm not a therapist or anything like that, but I really wanted to share kind of what I learned and how I'm kind of using this to really help myself, and in hopes that maybe it'll help work for somebody else. There's a lot of content out there which explains it a lot better. But eventually, once you remove all these kind of blended voices, you'll find ourself. And that self is kind of why they call it self-leadership. We can access that part, that core central part of us. We will lead a much more kind of satisfying, or kind of this happy, fulfilling life, right? The self, they describe it in 8 C's: calm, curious, creative, clear, connected, compassionate, confident, and courageous. So that the you, that's not a part like these other roles. So I share this I will link all this material out there in the newsletter in case you're learning to explain more, but I found it very helpful as a framework to guide through that self-healing process. I've read quite a bit of self-help books. It is the same theme, similar themes about nursing your inner child and really taking care of that part. So that's really the journey I'm on. So going back to the framework, the meta skills framework that I developed, or I, kind of created. I'm going to try this one more time. A lot of people, when they hear the word meta skills, still don't know what it means. And this may or may not help, but this is because I came from a data background. So meta skills to me is, if you ever heard of metadata, which is data about data. For example, when you take a picture, there's a timestamp, location, what camera is taking from. That is data about the picture, which is also data. So when we're doing database work, a lot of times we'll be saying, hey, this data point, such as our zip code or state or country, is a text field coming from a reference table. So you're describing data about data in order so you can organize and categorize data easily. So similarly, meta skills is the skills that help build other skills. So data about data, skills that help build other skills. They are, and I define 4 of them, 4 core, through observation, what I've seen is that we have 4 core innate skills. I'm actually going to go right to left and explain it one more time, just in a different way. I have explained it before in a prior episode, but storytelling, I think one core innate skill, is our ability to effectively connect and knowledge share with others. Most of all these self-help books, or even the minimalism, they will talk about that we are social creatures and we need community, and we are wired to be part of a whole, right? Most of the time, most of us will need that as part of the human experience. So storytelling is our ability to connect and do that with others, right? Socially share stories passed down from generations. And that to me is an innate and very transferable skill, right? This skill enables us to perhaps make presentations, right? Or that same skill can be used in selling a product. Same skill can be used in teaching something, right? Those are all storytelling skills. And there is a framework or some sort of pattern that helps connect other humans in order to learn effectively, understand the process, or maybe be touched or sold, right? You think about even making a movie is about storytelling. So this skill is very kind of transferable across multiple disciplines, though we think they're not interconnected. And it serves as a foundation. So if you're good at kind of doing that, it should be easier to pick up. Like if I can make presentations and make some teaching, I should be able to apply that same pattern to, say, sales, right? If I'm trying to market a product or something similar, which I'm trying to learn now. Now, that leads me to, again, right to left, to pattern recognition, which is, and I've kind of updated definition since my last version, ability to utilize patterns to learn faster. So we have, and I like this one because this is our ability to a lot of times use analogies, right? Or recognize a pattern. And in all honesty, our brains are wired to do that. So a lot of times, why do certain behaviors keep coming up, even though maybe the scenario is a little bit different? So for example, if I take, a lot of times in our spouses, we trigger the same emotion that maybe came from childhood, right? Our brain automatically encodes certain behaviors and patterns. And when they recognize a similar pattern, we'll apply that skill. So it is actually wired and neuroscientifically into our brains to work like that, to save calories, to burn less brain power in order to do that. Now, how do we access this to learn? I think this is an extremely powerful skill because a lot of times you can take a pattern maybe from a different topic and apply it to a different subject and then learn in that way. So then there's familiarity, right? For example, I talked about before in one of my videos about someone, a research scientist, looking at a spinach leaf and realizing it's very similar to the heart tissue, which is hard to grow, in which it can be leveraged perhaps in the future to repair heart tissue because that similar pattern. I mean, that's just one example. But a lot of times I think I really use this and it helped in school because I mean, it's, when we're learning 6 to 7 subjects, when we're grade school and high school, and how do you keep yourself interested? A lot of times I'm trying to borrow, oh, maybe I was good in math. I'm going to borrow this algebraic kind of pattern and apply it to biology or something like that. Or how do I apply to recognizing that there are similarities to bring familiarity in order to apply that skill? So it really has helped us learn faster. Now, move the one over, organization's ability to create processes and systems to improve efficiency. And you see this again. Why does our brain encode patterns? Is because it becomes super efficient, not always to our benefit if it's stemming from emotional pain, but when we go, and you probably see this probably in sports player, people that are really good with, say, maybe handling balls, they will probably well, that's pattern recognition, able to play a different sport quite easily because of that pattern they can recognize. Organization is more about how to create the system to, or thank you, whoever texted, create a system or process to improve, to really drive scalability. So, in a corporate setting, it's about maybe creating a sprint process. How do I engage a team to follow the same, create an organizational system or process so I can scale, right? School systems are a great way to see that. How do we educate the masses? And amongst many other things. Just like now I'm using a sprint process, I'm using pattern recognition and the ability to organize so I can keep myself kind of moving, right? And creating a system of delivery. So the very last one, and I highlight the self-management one because that's the tool I've been really exploring and really through myself looking at these tools. So it's very interesting when the couple clients that I am coaching, I actually, when I first in theory developed this, I was thinking that self-management wasn't something I'm going to try to delve into because I know that has to do a lot with probably therapeutic. It would require some kind of coaching or therapy or more maybe skills I haven't dabbled into. But surprisingly, both clients said that they actually wanted to build this skill. So I was really trying to push them to organization and pattern recognition. I was like, hey, let's build these skills. I can help you kind of, there are certain systems we can leverage to organize. But self-management, which I've updated definition to be the ability to manage our thoughts and behaviors that inhibit self-acceptance. If you think about it, it's really creating psychologically safe for yourself and others to perform well. So in a corporate setting, a lot of times you'll see kind of, you wonder why, and I've always thought about this, why certain leaders perhaps have some really unproductive behaviors, right? Whether it be criticizing or yelling. I've definitely been yelled at. Nobody really feels good like that. And it does not bring the best self forward, right? Even myself, competition or things that I say and things that I don't think really contribute to a team and self environment. A lot of times it stems from really self acceptance, right? If you dig really deep, it's that a lot of times maybe we're blaming ourselves for a certain failure, and our ability or inability to manage that part can manifest into kind of outward lash, right? Or inward lash, which is also not productive. So that's why I think it's really fascinating with this IFS concept, because it's really giving us a system to wait a minute, this maybe angry Angela, or this blaming Angela, or this blaming person, or maybe your boss blaming boss, to have a bit of perhaps compassion either for them or for yourself, and understanding that maybe it's not the situation right now that they're angry about. They're really angry about something else deep down. So that's the one that I have really delved into kind of unexpectedly. So with that, what am I releasing tomorrow? I will draft my new LinkedIn newsletter based on a lot of this content and plan for next phase. I'm actually going to decided to take a pause from this project to continue my self-discovery. I think I've been wanting to do it. I've been thinking a lot about it, so it's not just on a whim. And I think I was still riding on that go 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 mentality from corporate. And that go, go, go mentality at search was really, I realized, looking for external validation instead of really self acceptance. And I really want to take a pause so that I can clear my mind and really delve into the parts of myself that really has been suppressed or hidden, and trying to find what I really enjoy and like to do, really trying to find myself. So I am going to take a pause from it because I realized that it was overwhelming. And I've been, signing up for different various things from different coaches to, teach you here's my 7 steps to making a successful coaching business, or from anywhere from marketing tactics. And there's overwhelming information. And the more I got into, the more it just didn't feel right. And it's funny because before even getting to this decision, I had asked, my husband, my friends, instead of really asking myself inwardly what I needed, I wanted validation that it was okay to do this and take this step. And today, I actually did not talk to anyone. I actually, this morning, listened to a minimalist podcast about, I can't remember exactly the name of it, but about productivity and why we kind of keep on trying to keep ourselves busy. And there's something that the one of the guest speakers was saying in there that really resonated and made me realize, like, no, it's okay that I'm not go, 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 or I'm not producing something. That it's okay that creativity and creation takes time, and it's not sometimes in equal parts and linear. So I am going to take a pause. And I'll say that tomorrow and announce it as well, probably for the last quarter. Again, it's something I've been wanting to do. Now, however, I will still be documenting and sharing what we call our other channel, Experiences with Pan. That's our family channel. The reason I decided to keep that one is because we've been traveling a lot as a family, and I've been wanting to document kind of our travel stories just for us, if not for others, really for ourselves, to really capture the memories and remember the details. Because the further it goes, the longer it's lapsed, the more we forget. And we even ask ourselves, hey, did we see this or do we see that? We've been taking a lot of trips in the last few years. We still have a few more trips planned. So November, we're going to go to Vietnam. So it'll be our first time. So really kind of showing our boys' heritage. But yeah, follow along if you'd like that. So that is more about kind of experiences and really from our family, which 3 of us, so myself, my kids, my husband's not, are highly sensitive, and what that might look like when we travel. Of course, it is usually, I don't want to use the word meticulous, but it's pretty well planned so that we keep, so that there's to minimize the surprises. So I'll take a pause. So I thank you everyone for at least supporting me to this point. It's been a really good learning journey. I think I will, depending where I am, my headspace at, once I get past this last quarter, hopefully find my voice and myself so that I can be, who I truly am and really understand what I want. So thank you for listening to this longer episode. Hope you found some useful information, and I'd love to hear what you think. Feel free to put comments and questions in the chat. And I also put the QR code to our Pan channel. So again, that's just sharing our family. I just want to be able to document. I treat it more like as a journal for our family more than anything. So thank you.